and welcome everybody to my new video. Today I'll be building the London bus out of Legos, and I'll be commentating with some history and some facts about the London bus. I don't know what to talk about, so I'll start with this. This is the first for me, so it's a bit stressful, but I'll just try it and see how it goes. I enjoy myself a cup of Yorkshire tea, so I'm completely in the mood for doing this. Let's go. As of March 2021, the London buses fleet counts a total of 9,068 buses, includes 3,884 hybrid buses, 485 electric buses, and 2 hydrogen buses. The various bus operators operate a wide variety of vehicles, about the only immediate obvious common feature being their use of a largely red livery, which is mandatory since 1997. For each bus route, London buses set a specification for buses to be used, with the choice of a particular vehicle that meets the specification left up to the operator. Particular examples of London buses specification include the use of separate exit doors and on double-deckers the use of a straight staircase. Additionally, London buses also specifies that vehicles operating in London use traditional printed roller destination blinds, whereas in most other parts of the country electronic, dot matrix or LED displays are the norm on new buses. So now a bit more history. From the early days of motor bus operation by the London General Omnibus Company LGOC in the 1900s until the 1960s, London went its own way, designing its own vehicles especially for London use, rather than using the bus manufacturers' standard products used elsewhere. The Associated Equipment Company AEC was created as a subsidiary of the LGOC in 1912 to build buses and other equipment for its parent company, and continued in the ownership of LGOC and its successors until 1962. Many of London's local service buses over this period were built by AEC, although other manufacturers also built buses to London designs or modified their own design for use in London. The last bus specifically designed for London was the AEC Routemaster, built between 1956 and 1968. Since then, buses built for London local services have all been variants of models built for general use elsewhere. Although bus manufacturers will routinely offer a London specification to meet specific London requirements, some manufacturers even went so far as to build new models with London in mind, such as Daimler Fleetline and the Leyland Titan. London did see the introduction of several of newly emerging minibus and midibus models in the 1980s and 90s. In a bid up to the frequency on routes, although the use of these buses dropped off to the level of niche operations on routes not suitable for full-size buses. London was one of the earliest major users of low-floor buses, with the first low-floor single-decker vehicles entering service in 1993 and the first low-floor double-decker vehicles entering service in 1998. From 2002, the mainstay on the fleet, double-decker buses were augmented with a fleet of articulated buses, rising to a peak fleet size of 393 Mercedes-Benz Citaros. These were introduced to help replace the high-floor AEC Routemaster, as well as to cope with an increased capacity. Following withdrawal of older high-floor vehicles, the bus fleet became fully accessible at the end of 2005, 10 years ahead of the national requirement. Now, the new Routemaster and Bendy bus withdrawal. In the 2008 London mayoral election campaign, prospective mayor Boris Johnson made several commitments to change the London bus vehicle policy, namely to introduce a new route master and remove the bendy buses. Johnson was elected to office on the 4th of May 2008, and on the 4th of July 2008, Transport for London announced the new Bus for London competition in which conceptual and detailed design proposals would be sought for a new hybrid route master, with development of a design that could be put to production hoped for completion by 2012, the expected date of the next mayoral election. In August 2008, the Commissioner of Transport for London, Peter Handy, announced that the withdrawal of the bendy buses would take place, starting in 2009 to reduce additional costs to TfL. The articulated buses would be withdrawn as their 5-year operating contracts came up for renewal, with the replacement buses being decided by operators. Option for replacement would not preclude such measures as triaxle buses. However, research by London Travel Watch in 2008 indicated that replacing articulated buses with double-decker models would be more expensive, as additional vehicles would be required to maintain overall route capacity of 85 per bus versus 120 per bus. The first buses to be withdrawn would be the Red Arrow fleet on routes 507 and 521, although the latter route requires single-deckers as it runs through the Strand underpass in May 2009. Okay. The last were withdrawn on December 9, 2011. In May 2010, Mayor of London Boris Johnson unveiled the design of a new route master. The proposed replacement for the route master as an iconic standard bus for exclusive use in London. The bus is designed by Heatherwick Studio, and built by Wrightbus features two staircases. Sorry for that. These doors, 3 doors and an open platform allowing passengers to hop on and off, and it commenced operating in 2012. In December 2011, the British car magazine Autocar praised the new route master in its road test, rating it ahead of contemporary and historic buses. However, in December 2016, the new mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, decided that no more orders would be placed for the bus after only 1,000 of Johnson's envisaged fleet of 2,000 had been procured. In 2020, Transport for London announced that a new route master would be converted so passengers would only enter by the front door, with the middle and the rear doors becoming exit only. This was done to reduce fare evasion, which had been double that of other London buses. Now a bit about zero emissions and whatnot. Hybrid buses first entered service in 2006 and now make up for 40% of the 9,000 strong bus fleet. It was originally intended that every bus introduced into service after 2012 would be a hybrid, but this requirement was later dropped. Electric buses first entered service in 2014, and London now has the second electric bus fleet in Europe, with over 480 fully electric buses in service. That's quite impressive. In 2021, it was announced that all buses in the fleet meet or exceed Euro 6 emission standards following the phase-out of older buses. The retrofitting of diesel vehicles and the introduction of new hybrid and electric buses. The Mayor of London is currently aiming for a zero-emission bus fleet by 2037. From autumn 2020, single-deck buses entering the fleet will be electric or hydrogen zero-emission buses. Now, how does their operation work? So they have local buses. Most local buses within London form a network managed by London Buses an arm of Transport of London. Services are operated by private sector companies under contract to London buses. With the introduction of the London congestion charge in central London, and because at peak times the underground is operating at maximum capacity, many bus service improvements have been undertaken, and the central bus service are currently enjoying something of a resurgence. Although the rear entrance double-deck AAC Routemaster is the archetypical London bus, they were withdrawn in early 2000s owing to their age, their inability to comply with disability legislation or accept wheelchairs or pushchairs, and their requirement for a two-person crew. All other local bus services are now operated by modern low-floor buses, which may be single-deck or double-deck. Most buses operating in London have two sets of doors, and passengers board the bus using the front door and alight using the rear door. While some buses on less busy routes have only one door. Since 2006, all buses are low-floor and accessible, accepting passengers in wheelchairs and other mobility impaired passengers. A small number of bus routes, namely Route 607, X26, X68, X140, run a daily limited stop service, traveling a long distance but serving few stops in its route. Some local bus routes in the outer areas of London cross the London boundary. London buses services that cross the boundary have standard red buses and charge London fares, at least within the boundary. Buses from outside London that cross into London are their operators' own colour schemes and may not accept the London fares even within the boundary. Because the operating contracts for local buses in London are subject to a system of competitive tender, a wide range of companies now operate bus routes across London. Many services have been contracted out to leading transport groups such as Abellio, Arriva, Comfort Go Ahead Group, RATP Group, Stagecoach and Transit Systems, Connex, First Group, National Express, and Transdev previously operated services in London. Privately run bus services may also be operated independently of the regulated London bus network, but still require a permit of TfL. This permit applies to any service which has a stop in London and other within 15 miles of Greater London, such as the commuter coaches, school buses, and school market shuttle buses. Alright, next up is night buses. Night buses began running as early as 1913, as they formed part of the London bus network for many years until 1961. The night routes were numbered from around 280 to 299, but the imminent withdrawal of trolley buses meant that numbers between 1 and 299 were in short supply. The 280 plus route numbers were freed by giving night bus routes a prefix N for the first time. For example, while Route 9 travels from Aldwych to Hammersmith, Route N9 continues a further 16 miles, which is 26 kilometers for everybody else, from Hammersmith to Heathrow Airport Terminal 5. There are also 24 routes which runs throughout the day and night. These do not have distinguishing numbers. Some of these only run at night during weekends, whereas others run throughout the week. There is also something called heritage routes. Following the withdrawal of rear entrance double-deck AAC Routemaster from all regular services routes in 2005, a small fleet was retained to operate on heritage routes. As the AAC Routemaster buses were not accessible to passengers in wheelchairs and other mobility impaired passengers, the heritage routes were operated as a short working of a regular service route bearing the same route number, thus ensuring that passengers unable to board the heritage buses are offered equivalent alternative transport arrangements. Initially running on Route 9 and Route 15, Route 9H was withdrawn on 26 July of 26 of 2014. In 2019, the remaining heritage route 15 was cut back to a seasonal service running on weekends and bank holidays through the summer. In 2021, TfL announced that the heritage route would not return following the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, who doesn't recognize tour buses? A common sight in central London, these tour buses. The majority being open-top buses. These are double-decker buses with a fully or partially open upper deck, which provide tourist services with either live or recorded commentary. Most of these services allow passengers to embark and disembark at any of the company's stops, continuing their journey on a later bus. There are several competing operators of such services, which do not form part of the London bus network and do not issue or accept London bus tickets, although at least one painted buses in the same red as the London local buses. Other tours use coaches and generally need to be booked in advance through travel agents. There are around 50 buses and coach stations across London, located at transport interchanges, town centres and other major destinations such as shopping centres and hospitals. The busiest coach location in London is Victoria Coach Station, which serves about 14 million passengers a year. It's a lot. Cromwell Road Bus Station in Kingston upon Thames is the largest London bus station in the 17 bus stands. Now I'm just quickly gonna check if I'm actually recording this. It's quite important. Okay. So now I'll be talking about some major accidents happening on these buses. On June 13, 1975, RTL 780 operating on Route 7 collided with a queue of people at the bus stop in Oxford Street, resulting in 8 deaths. The driver had collapsed with heat exhaustion. Seems to be the case. And on 31 October of 2019, a major RTC involving the Route R11, Route 358 and a car in Orpington with one of the bus drivers losing his life. But what I find more interesting is there has been some terrorist incidents which I never heard about. So first up, on February 18, 1996, an explosive device detonated prematurely on a Route 171 Catford to Holborn double-decker bus operated by London Central and Aldwych. The bomb killed Edward O'Brien, the IRA terrorist transporting the device, and injuring 8 others, including the driver. The force ripped the bus apart, destroying its front. Must be quite a sight. On July 7, 2005, an explosion occurred as a part of a coordinated attack on London as a Route 30 Hackney Wick to Marble Arch double-decker bus operated by Stagecoach London in Tavistock Square. The force ripped the roof off the top deck and destroyed the back of the bus, killing 13 passengers and the suicide bomber. Holy fuck. 21st of July 2005, a suicide bomber attempted to explode a bomb as part of a second coordinated attack on London on a Route 26 Waterloo station to Hackney Wick double-decker bus operated by Stagecoach Group in Bethnal Green. The device failed to detonate properly, and there were happily no injuries. Okay, that's good. And then some random facts and figures that were noted. A revamped London bus has been used to promote the work of British artist Sir Peter Blake, and an anthropomorphic route master named Topper Deckington III is a fictional character in the Pixar movie Cars 2. Wait a second. In March 2021, the London bus fleet had a total. Okay, we already talked about that. I think I'm done here. If there's some time left, I'm gonna add some music, and I'm gonna leave you off. Maybe I'll say something at the end. Probably I will, but for now, see you in a bit. Hey. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like my information. I hope you like the music. Most music is from Black Box. I really like them. They're a good tune. And I wish you a great week. See you later.